can't be real, but it is. I mean, it's destroyed. The Crimean bridge is destroyed. Happy birthday to Vladimir Putin. Yesterday was his birthday. That is his birthday present. Keep knocking them out cold, Ukraine. This is Kerch Bridge, the only bridge connecting Crimea to mainland Russia. Around 6 AM today, we have videos of explosions here. The explosions were perfectly timed with the fuel train crossing the bridge. And since the train is on fire and the road has collapsed. One could almost think there were two explosions, one that took out the train and one that took out the paved bridge. Or perhaps the bomb was in the train or in one of the lorries, the trucks crossing the bridge at the time of the explosion. Ukrainian side has not confirmed anything, but I mean, they have nothing to hit that bridge with anyway, except for special forces. It could also be the Ukrainian partisan movement in Crimea or the Russian Freedom Legion, you know, the anti-Putin movement in Russia. The paved bridge collapsed from two separate places, making it unusable from that side. The other two lanes are still usable. It was a 4-lane bridge, but I mean, if Ukraine was able to hit it once, they can hit it again. I think the rail is unusable after such an explosion. What's the military outcome of destroying this bridge? Crimea has a lot of military bases, huge Russian military bases. They need ammunition, fuel, vehicles, personnel. All of that has to be carried with ferries now. Ferry transport has been activated again. This is tedious, it claims more resources and it's slower. You have to load the ammunition onto the ferry. Ferry takes time to reach Crimea, then you have to unload the ammunition to the trucks and the trucks take off. Also, when, not if, but when Ukraine reaches Crimea, the military personnel in Crimea have nowhere to retreat to because there's no physical connection to Russia anymore. Right now, Russia still has the land connection through Ukraine, but it's only a matter of time if Ukraine cuts that. Destroying this bridge will trap millions of civilians and tens of thousands of army personnel in Crimea and in occupied Ukraine. This bridge was their very last way out. They always had that, now they don't. What about the civilians? It was very convenient to transport food with trucks, lorries, trains over this bridge to the supermarkets and to the warehouses of Crimea. Now this is impossible. There might be food shortages. There might be fuel shortages. Crimea has always had this problem of shortages after Russia annexed it from Ukraine. Because Crimea got everything from Ukraine and no infrastructure was built to get stuff from Russia. So this bridge was the first and last part of infrastructure to be built, and now it's gone. Things are looking grim for the Crimean civilians. In their interest, it would be to connect them as fast as possible to Ukraine again. My friends, it is time to thank the Patreons. I don't have a sponsor today. Patreons are the sponsor. These people are tier 10 or above, so I will be butchering their names with my Estonian pronunciation. Timothy Puts, Edward Opeirne, Robert A. Modzelewski, Tom Frausto, Maglor, Renegade Samurai, Matt Dudak, Jesus Kretsme loks just like me. Alright, I'm done with the last. I butchered myself with that. Thank you for these people for being a patron of the channel. If you like the channel, Patreon link is in the description below. This bridge was one of the most important achievements of Vladimir Putin's life. I mean, annexing Crimea was the most important one, and connecting that Crimea to mainland Russia is the second most important one. The bridge cost over $1 billion United States dollars. And it was completed with only 2 years, from 2016 to 2018. Yes, you might say in the Western terms, completing this bridge with 2 years is okay. In the Russian construction terms, this is speed of light. Meaning that Putin prioritized this construction project over anything else in the country. I mean, look at it. He opened the bridge by driving a lorry, however you call these, trucks, lorries, across the bridge. The Russians might love it, but I think it's cringe. But apparently the speedy construction resulted in poorer quality. Looking at the destruction of this bridge after this 1 or 2 explosions only, I mean, it's destroyed. It's a massive bridge. It should have held out better. There are bridges in Ukraine that Ukraine itself is trying to destroy. And these bridges take several attacks, 5, 6 different HIMARS strikes. And they're still going. And this bridge, already gone. I mean, it's made in Russia. Ukraine really knocked that bridge out cold. Top Kremlin propagandist Solovyov is still struggling to accept the fact that Russia's 2 million sized army never actually existed. It was all a lie. I mean, Russian army size might have been 2 million if you count the hot reserve. Hot reserve in conscription terms is the past 3 to 4 years of young men who have completed conscription. They are reservists, but they're hot reservists, and some armies in the world count them into the army. So they're not active personnel, they are just young men who have very recently completed conscription. If you count them in, you get 2 million in the size of the Russian army, but they are reservists. It's not the army. What it seems like is that the active, trained, regular personnel of the Russian army under rifle was about 300,000, out of which 200,000 went to Ukraine and are by now wounded or dead. Casualties. And the rest are guarding the borders. The Finnish have knitted over 20,000 pairs of socks for the Ukrainians. Yeah, I wanna laugh and maybe you wanna laugh, but let's remember, winter is coming and feet are furthest from the heart and they get cold first in the forest. I know it. The boots were issued in Estonia, yeah, they're really durable, they're really good, but they're kind of cold in the winter. So you're gonna need these socks. So thank you, kiitos, to the Finnish. Estonians are donating 2,000 winter uniforms to Ukrainians. I hope other countries are doing the same. Because we know Russians are lacking winter uniforms. Let's make sure Ukrainians get the winter uniforms. Volodymyr Zelensky signed a decree stating that Ukraine recognizes the Kuril Islands as part of Japan and now under Russian occupation. Kuril Islands are the disputed territory north from Japan, and Russia occupies them. And for the last 20 years, Japan has been kind of quiet about them. But now that Russia is weak, the weakest it's been in the last 30 years, perhaps Japan might get some ideas, you know. I'll leave you here, my friends. Thank you for staying with me and thank you for staying with Ukraine. If you like the channel, Patreon link and Knock 'em Out code merch in the description below. Until my next video, Slava Ukraini.